The thing is that you think you're putting it on the gift card that you just picked up, but in actuality, the code on it that's been replaced is for another legitimate gift card.
It's Sunday, June 28th, across the Village Media Network and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Welcome back to Closer Look. I'm Scott Sexsmith. Frisco is on assignment this week. Gift card scams. It's a growing problem right across North America, worth millions of dollars to criminal organizations. And the fraudsters ripping you off have made quite a few headlines lately. Here in Ontario, the most recent big bust came courtesy of Halton Regional Police, who arrested two men last month and seized thousands of fraudulent gift cards in an investigation dubbed Project Reload. On this week's episode of the program, we're going to revisit an eye-opening conversation we recently had with Ritesh Kotek. He's a lawyer and cybercrime expert who understands how these fraudsters operate, why gift card scams are such a lucrative enterprise, and how you can protect yourself as a consumer. Here now is that interview. I can't count how many times on this show we've talked about fraud. It's definitely a favorite topic of ours, mostly because the latest emerging tactic is just so brazen. And now I have to worry about my gift cards getting scammed. Let's start with what's the most common scam out there, Ritesh, when it comes to gift cards.
The most common scam that we are seeing, and again, a lot of this high-tech crime has a lot of low-tech ways of going about dealing with it. And, you know, this is the modern-day Grinch, is what they're doing is they're going in and they're finding legitimate gift cards and they're printing barcodes on the gift card and they're sticking it on the back of these packages. What happens there? Well, think about it. You pick up a gift card from your favorite retailer. You go to the counter, and what do they ask you? How much money would you like to put on it? Do you want to put $10, $50, $100, $1,000? And you're like, you know what? I'll put $100. Okay, great. They scan it and they put $100 to that card. The thing is that you think you're putting it on the gift card that you just picked up, but in actuality, the code on it that's been replaced is for another legitimate gift card that this fraudster ended up purchasing, mirrored the barcode, and you're actually putting money into their account. And once they're able to get money into that account, they can do a few things. They can sell those gift cards online at a reduced price. They can go out and purchase goods and resell those goods. And the list goes on, and people are being defrauded thousands of dollars, and it's just a huge problem. And that's one of the most common gift card scams that I'm seeing.
It's crazy. I think we just saw an example of that in Hamilton this week where the police arrested a guy. Allegedly, he was in the store kind of secretly putting these stickers on the barcodes, right? And then when they busted him. When you see that happening, Ritesh, is it typically someone on the low end of an organized group that's sent in to put the stickers on, or is it just one guy doing all this work?
There's been lone wolves that have just gone out and kind of, you know, these standalone fraudsters that have figured out ways of weaponizing the system, and all the way up to organized crime, where individuals that are obviously there's a hierarchy in those within those organizations, but a lot more sophisticated, a lot more resources, even harder to decipher fact from fiction, and using it very targeted to defraud Canadians.
It's true. I think I've also seen examples where people who they shouldn't do this, they actually post a photo of their gift card online and say, oh, look, I got a gift card. But people can steal the barcode, right, and just use that as a self-checkout. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's free software online. It's very cheap to get barcode printing software. Again, the last thing I want to do is create a how-to guide on the podcast. And
that's really what we're trying to do here, Ritesh.
I know you've opened up this can of worms, but look, it's important that that we understand the mechanisms that go on. And again, I talked about right from the beginning. It may seem sophisticated. In some cases, it's not. Being able to manipulate a barcode or copy a barcode and print it. There is free software out there, and you don't actually have to get a label printer. You can literally just get it printed on a piece of paper, walk into a store and say, here's my gift card, scan it. And unfortunately, unless the individual is trained, ask the right questions, which they never do. It's never happened to me when I've paid with a gift card. Well, where did you buy this gift card? How much should be on it? From which location? You don't get asked those questions. They just scan it and say, oh yeah, you have $50 on this gift card. You want to apply all of it towards this purchase? And you're like, sure. And voila, you're out of there. And it's literally that simple.
Ritesh, any stats on how often this is happening, and in terms of dollars lost, what's the number?
We're definitely talking millions of dollars that have been lost. We don't have the exact stats, and the reason for that is there's lack of reporting. A lot of people, when they do get victimized, may not report it to law enforcement. They'll just report it to the retailer, because at the end of the day, they don't want to see someone get arrested. They just want to get their money back. However, we know that this is a growing problem, and there's actually a push right now for legislation where it makes reporting mandatory. In fact, the Canadian government is expected to announce a new financial crimes agency in April of 2026. And the whole idea around that is getting all these resources together, because there is no legal obligation right now for the retailer to actually report it to the police, for the credit card company to report it to the police as well. So my point being, we know about hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars of fraud that Canadians are impacted by. That number is significantly and grossly underreported.
Yeah, we know that too from speaking to previous experts. We even had the gentleman from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center on here. That's usually a fraction of what is actually out there, because not everyone's reporting how they're being scammed. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I just want to look at one more example before we get into some general questions, Ritesh. The Kitchener-Waterloo Police arrested a person this week as well, and they said that they allegedly found a person concealing gift cards and replacing authentic cards with tampered ones before leaving the store. Is that the same kind of thing, or is that a different kind of scam?
The gift card companies, the companies that produce these cards have understood that, look, people are replacing the barcodes right on the outside. So they're looking at new ways and new methods, potentially adding pins and other security measures. But you actually have to open up the package.
Yes.
So there have been situations of tampering where fraudsters have been able to go out, purchase some legitimate gift cards. They go ahead and tamper them and then replace them. So you think, again, at the end of the day, you're activating legitimate gift cards, but in actuality, you're not. You're probably putting funds into the gift cards of these fraudsters and hackers when you actually go ahead and go to the counter and activate those cards. So yeah, they are becoming much more sophisticated. You're starting to see kind of the digital world and the physical world converge into this new convergent world, and that's where we're seeing fraud headed. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That these fraudsters are going into the store, physically replacing those gift cards. That's why it's very important to make sure that at the counter that the person who's actually dealing with the transaction should be trained on identifying if this is a legitimate card or not. Until we get those mechanisms in place, which we don't currently have, we're going to see more of these.
That's great.
Ritesh, what advice do you have for shoppers?
The best advice I have is when you're going out and making these purchases, use a credit card. The reason for that is your purchase may be insured, especially if you're a victim of a fraud. If you're using your debit card, good luck getting your money back. If you're using cash, even better, good luck getting your money back. Use a credit card. It's insured. There's a chargeback process that could be initiated. Physically inspect the cards for tampering. Try to see if there's any barcode that's been stuck on or any type of labeling. If anything looks off, if there's a cut or slit on the side, just be cognizant of that. And as an individual, if you're selling gift cards or you're a employer, please throughout the holiday season, just train your employees to what to look for. And finally, and I wish we would see more of this, we don't. it would be great to see these gift cards behind the counter instead of just publicly accessible where this type of fraud can occur. But until it's mandated or this problem starts becoming even bigger and more reported, we're just not going to see that.
That's a good point, because years ago they used to be behind the counter, and then somebody came up with the bright idea to put them on a carousel, or at the end of an aisle in some merchandising display that anybody can grab.
Yeah, it speaks about friction, right? The less friction you have, the more you see it. It's right on the end of the aisles as well. Sometimes they're near the section where you can buy those, $8, $9 birthday cards and holiday cards. I bought one the other day. It was so simplistic, and it was with taxes, it was $7.90. I was like, we got to just move to e-cards. And anyways, that's a whole other.
Nobody go to Dollarama to buy their cards anymore.
I know, you see Dollarama's record profit. That's a whole other story.
That's a whole other show.
That's right. My loved ones buy their cards for sure. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, Ritesh. We definitely are living in a fraud world, and I feel like we've passed the point now where we now have to assume that everything is a scam and work your way backwards. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this whole zero trust protocol, right? Before the default was, we are starting off with an element of trust, and you're going to have to do wrong to me for me to, think otherwise. Unfortunately, that's just not the case anymore. It's a lot of cybersecurity people say it's the zero trust protocol. That's the zero trust culture is just go on the assumption that everything is a fraud, and until you can prove otherwise, whether you can validate and verify the information, just given the sophistication and the prevalence of it, unfortunately, this is the mindset for a lot of individuals, for a lot of companies, and I don't see that changing until fraud stops, which I don't think it'll ever stop, given the jurisdictional issues, the attribution related issues, the fact that it's really, you have a very high reward and low risk when we hear about all the arrests, and I'm literally all the arrests, because it's very rare we hear about arrests that come out of it, and people are being defrauded, and governments are always sounding the alarm. This is gonna be a problem. So yeah, unfortunately, we're in a society. It's zero trust.
Yeah, you put it so eloquently in a recent column on TVO Today. Technology has become a sword used by savvy scammers to harm us. We're at the point now where the deep fakes are fooling even the most tech-savvy experts, and the balance of power has shifted. How do we react to that? What's the number one thing we can do as a society, as government, to try to kind of nip this? I mean, it seems like it's beyond that point.
Education. Like, that's literally having these types of conversations. The more people that listen to the podcast, the more people that read those op-eds and talk to family members and friends that are that can provide these types of these tips. We have to inoculate ourselves from these types of frauds, and the only way to do that is going to be via education, going out, having those roundtable discussions, doing more of these podcasts. Other than that, I can't really think of anything. Yes, we can have stricter penalties. We can put rules on vendors. We can put gift cards behind the counter, but we're still going to see some of these issues. I'll share a quick story,
please.
I just delivered a keynote out in BC. I think there were like 700 people there. Phenomenal. I think that keynote went really well. And then as I finish up, I posted on LinkedIn. I get a call from a friend of mine. He's a retired police officer in the Greater Toronto area, and he calls me up and he goes, "Ritesh, I need a solid." And I said, "What's up?" He goes, "Can you come and talk to my church group on the weekend about frauds?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah. How many people are you expecting?" And he goes, 8. I was like, well, I just presented like 800. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Happy to do it. And I went, and I was in this church basement. I delivered a talk. It was funny. They all brought their iPads because they thought I was going to fix all their iPads and update it and deal with all of that. But we had a very in-depth discussion, and some of the questions they were asking, and I've been on TV, hundreds of times talking about this. I've written about it. I've done numerous podcasts, and it was until they heard it from me face to face, and I was able to have those one-on-one discussions, they're like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand why this is important. Okay, I will make sure that I hit that pause button. If there's a sense of urgency, I will slow it down. I'll ask, I'll call a friend. It was, I know that now those 8 people are hopefully going to be able to think about these issues differently, behave differently as well, and hopefully not get defrauded. Putting the toothpaste back in the tube is just not possible anymore. And that's the big issue. It's like, oh, okay, I will call a credit card company. Well, these chargeback processes take forever. And sometimes you have an unsuccessful outcome. We hear about banks not refunding people as well, because they're saying you're the one that gave the one-time passcode. You're the one that was in contact with the fraudster. We're seeing court cases that take years to see the light of day. So quite frankly, to me, it's education, having these conversations, doing these one-on-one talks. Education is the only answer. Everything else, great. If you're able to get your money back, fantastic. If you're able to get a remedy, amazing. But to me, the only solution to this is going to be having these types of discussions.
Yeah, it sounds like that was very successful, your visit to the basement. It makes me think that maybe the best answer to this is just to have you go door to door. You start in Ontario, but then people would think you're a scammer, I think, if you keep knocking on people's doors. Yeah,
well, hopefully they're able to Google me and see a whole bunch of TV interviews and be like, okay, maybe this guy's they'll see a podcast and like, okay, he's legitimate. But you know what? That's why I'm in the summer, I'm actually thinking about getting a vehicle, wrapping it, and
love it,
and driving across the country and having these conversations with individuals in church basements, in community centers, at their local clubs, because I think that's the only solution, and I think somebody has to do it.
That would be amazing, actually. You would get a lot of coverage for that. I think that'd be a great idea, because education is key. We've all have loved ones who have either been scammed or know someone who's been scammed.
Sure.
It's not like someone else over there. Yeah. Everybody has been touched by this. And it really is. It's just about learning. It's about realizing, okay, there's no panic. I don't have to rush to make this thing. If my grandkid calls me for money, it's not my grandson. I can hang up the phone. I can call my grandson and see if it's actually him. So I think people are starting to learn that. But I think you're right, my friend. I think it's going to take a long time.
Yeah, that's the only way. Sometimes that grassroots approach is probably going to be the answer. Look, we're talking about scams today, right? The thing is that, especially when the best line I heard is the worst AI you're ever going to use is right now, right? Technology is changing at such a rapid pace that it's just going to be even harder to decipher fact from fiction. Clearly, that's going to be incorporated into scams, and fraudsters are going to look for ways of exploiting individuals. That's why I think building a very strong foundation, having these conversations is going to be very important, because as the scams evolve, the principle is going to be the same. Hit that pause button, validate and verify, ask a friend. That is where all these things are going to kick in. So it's we got to build that foundation, because as scams continue to evolve, I think the basics around preventing these types from being victimized from these scams will stay the same.
Our thanks again to Ritesh Kotek for his time and certainly his expertise on today's show. Remember, you can follow Closer Look across all of our social channels and subscribe to our weekly email at closerlookpodcast.ca. That's our show for this week. For Zach Trunzo, executive producer, and everyone who puts this show together each and every week, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next time right here on Closer Look.
Briscoe & Scott's wardrobe provided in part by Morris Clothing for Men.